Hey, friends, welcome to the Astrology and More podcast. I'm your host, Courtney, and today we've got a free mini reading for Megan, and we're going to be talking about Sun in Aquarius, Moon in Taurus, Sagittarius rising, but more importantly, we're going to be talking about a rare phenomenon called an intercepted sun. When you hear something called an intercepted chart, and this adds a whole new complexity of, energies to a person's makeup, to their, the blueprint of their soul, and it's kind of difficult to deal with and hard to understand. But I am here to make you one with the cosmos and help you understand these complex topics. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so this person has a Sun in Aquarius, Mercury in Aquarius chart. Now, what is the Aquarius energy? It is probably one of the most difficult energies, in my opinion, one of the most difficult zodiac signs to be born under, and this is because to understand the nature of the Aquarius energy, you're gonna have to look to the planetary ruler, which is Uranus. Now, all the other planets in our solar system, they spin on their axis, or they rotate very eloquently in a nice, orderly fashion, but Uranus tumbles end over end very violently, and it sends out a shock wave that keeps all the other planets in alignment. So the nature of Aquarius is it's the opposite. When you tell an Aquarius what to do, their natural tendency is to do the opposite. It is a very disruptive energy because if everybody is marching on the upbeat, Aquarius energy is always on the opposite beat. So as much as Aquarius is long to fit in, they're ahead of their time. This is the zodiac sign that's out of sync with society, and their ideas are in the future. They're it's a very progressive sign. Aquarius is the sign of detachment. So we as human beings, our souls long to attach to other people, to our family, to our friends, to our careers. But Aquarius energy is very, detached. So when Aquarius starts feeling obligated to people, to places, to jobs, to a routine, the natural energy of Uranus comes in, and it disrupts that, and it makes them want to pull away from these things. And it's a very unstable energy. It's a very genius energy, and I love the Aquarius energy because in today's society, there's a lot of political correctness going on, and you can always count on an Aquarius to break that up. So, for example, if you're on an elevator and let's say you've got two other people on there, and the elevator ride is going like really smooth, and it stops at a floor and it picks up this like drama queen that just like disrupts the whole flow of the elevator, the whole flow of the energy. And this drama queen like rides one floor, gets off, and the elevator door closes. Now everybody in the elevators think, "Ooh, thank God she got off." Aquarius actually says it. So if you want to know the honest truth about how you look, like, how what's your take on your boyfriend, your girlfriend, like, ask an Aquarius, and they're going to be very blunt about matters like that. So it's like a breath of fresh air, I guess, depending on whether you're like the recipient of their brutal honesty, or their bluntness, or if you're the one that they're roasting. But at either rate, it can be a very disruptive energy. Now, Aquarius is, you look to the 11th house for themes for Aquarius. It rules like computers and social media and technology, aviation. It's very progressive. It's also very philanthropic and humanitarian. Aquarius need a cause to be working towards at all times. They want to make the world a better place. Now, one of the things about Aquarius is they can get very down when they watch too much news, or they see the way that the shape that the world is in today. Things can get very hopeless for the Aquarius energy, and they can just have this sort of just forget it attitude. Why even try? And so, and at that point, if they get that way, Aquarius is themselves, they can become overindulgent and too much partying. And it's just, we're under stress. Like Aquarius is kind of like wild out and just, you have to watch the Aquarius energy for self-destruction, because Aquarius is a fixed sign. So once those wheels get turning in a certain direction, and let's say they have a couple of bad things that go wrong, or a couple of bumps in the road, Aquarius should just be just like throw the whole baby out with the bathwater and just, feel hopeless and just kind of just go into self-destruction mode. So they have to temper that extremist personality, those extremist tendencies, and always needing goals and projects to be working towards. Now, Megan has Moon in Taurus. Now, this is the exaltation of the moon. This is the home of the moon, but it isn't a square. It isn't a square aspect pattern with the sun. Now, what does this mean? Your sun is the conscious part of you. You have control over your conscience. The moon is your unconscious, and it's the natural wavelength that you're on. It's basically like your programming from childhood. It's the part of you that you can't control. It runs you. So your subconscious, I think, runs like 70 or 80% of a person. And so when it is in a square aspect with the sun, there's a friction going on between the conscious and the unconscious, an inner tension. It can feel like this person is always walking on eggshells, like there's a nervousness that is oftentimes projected onto other people, but this is something that is coming from within. This is an out of whack chakra system, or out of balance chakra system. And so under stress, and this is a very difficult aspect to be born with, because this is a person, when you have a sun moon square in your chart, you cannot handle stress very well. And under extreme amounts of stress and pressure, this is a person who feels like they're being ripped apart from the inside out. And so having an Aquarius sun under this stress, there can be some self-destructive tendencies or some escapist tendencies with this, especially given the fact that this is someone who has a 29-degree Aquarius sun. Now, what is the 29th degree? The 29th degree is the last degree of the sun. It is the most intense degree to be born on. It's like the energy is at its full culmination of that sign. So it's like it amps up that zodiac sign's energy. And so with it being the sign of Aquarius, it can amp up those rebellious tendencies, those tendencies just to kind of wild out with things. And so really the way to stop this reaction to life, and this reaction to circumstances, having this sun moon square, and this creates, having this with the 29th degree of Aquarius, this can create an escapist tendency. And really, what the number one thing that needs to happen when you have the sun moon square is to do yoga, to do Pilates, at least 10 to 20 minutes a day. You can do this on YouTube, like Yoga with Adrienne, Yoga with Cassandra, because basically being born as an Aquarius, because Aquarius rules electricity, and everything is an energetic reaction, excuse me. We're all made of energy, and how our energies are different components of our energy. So with Aquarius, you were born with too much energy. You were born naturally with an out of balance chakra system. So it's like plugging a shorted out lamp into an outlet, so there's sparks flying. And with having the moon in Taurus, this is a fixed sign of the moon, and this square, this just creates basically a fire around you. So you want to first and foremost bring your chakras into balance with 10 to 20 minutes of yoga a day. Now, and that really, it will feel like you have gone to a therapist and had a massage, just doing 10 to 20 minutes a day of yoga. This is not about getting into shape. This is a conscious effort to bring your chakras into balance. And then you can be a lot more clear-headed. Life, having this sun moon square, things aren't stressing your energy centers is bad, and you can make more clear head decisions. Now, Moon in Taurus is a very nurturing placing. This is a very creative placing. People with Moon in Taurus typically are really good at like decorating, painting, crafts, things like that. And having this Aquarius sun, I imagine this would, you would, it's a very, Aquarius is very, they're trend setting. So a lot of times Aquarius is, they can spot trends way out. So they're a few years ahead of the time. And so as far as like, you know, crafts and creating things, you know, that the Moon in Taurus would naturally do, Aquarius can really spot these trends. So this is, like I said, a very creative placing, having Moon in Taurus. Now, your moon sign is your emotional nature. And one of the things about the Taurus energy is itself is it's very overindulgent. Having moon in Taurus, especially, these can be quite the comfort eaters. Like you overindulge in like food, sex, shopping, decorating, like whatever feels good to your senses. And you need a very, you know, colorful, like very decorated, and your place of residence needs to have a certain ambience to it. Aquariuses themselves can be very scatterbrained and kind of messy, a lot of them, unless their Mercury is like in Capricorn. But Moon in Taurus needs a nice, like, you know, pleasant, comfortable environment. So, but definitely you want, you know, you want to stay the overindulgent thing, because like I said, this can be quite the comfort eater. So under stress, Moon and Taurus people can overindulge in whatever feels good to them. So if they ever start drinking, they can overindulge in drinking. If they start self-medicating through, you know, extracurricular or, you know, substances, this is going to be a problem for Moon and Taurus. You're really going to have to check yourself when you have this, because things can get out of hand. Whatever you like, you do to the 10th degree. So it's hard to pull back from when you have fixed signs of the zodiac in your chart, especially the Moon in Taurus. Now, Mercury is in Aquarius and it's retrograde. Everybody talks about Mercury being retrograde. Now, what does that mean? Well, collectively, we see a delay in like emails and in actual mail. There is, you know, phone lines get messed up, or phone calls, a delay in communication. Cars can have trouble or break down and things like that. But what happens when you're born with this natally? What is Mercury? So Mercury is the mind. It's how you think. It's the way you communicate. It's the way you see the world. And it's the way you receive communication. Now, most people are born with their sun and Mercury in the same sign. And this creates a good lineup between the head and the heart. And she has this lineup. But Mercury is retrograde. So this means that instead of the planet's energy having extroverted expression, the planet's energy is introverted. So it's not as bad when Mercury is retrograde in Aquarius or Sagittarius. Where the problem's at is if Mercury is retrograde like in Pisces or Virgo or Scorpio. That's a lot harder to communicate. Aquariuses tend to blurt things out without thinking about it anyway, whatever first comes to their mind. Aquarius is lightning speed. It is a very genius placing in the chart. So Mercury retrograde for Aquarius that's not as bad. I kind of like it because it actually slows their mind down a little bit, because their mind is that, you know, most people have about 2 to 3 things that are floating around their thoughts at all times in a circle. And then you know, the person like plucks that thought out and thinks of it for a little bit longer. And these other 2 are running around. Aquariuses have like 7 to 10. So a lot of Aquariuses get diagnosed with ADD, or a lot of Mercury in Aquariuses get diagnosed with like attention deficit disorder, ADHD, things like that. Now, this is just the way their mind is you know, is sped up. Aquarius is lightning fast. So when it's retrograde, it does slow it down a little bit, but it does cause misunderstandings in communication. And a lot of things for people with Mercury retrograde, it comes out of their mouth, not the way that they thought of in their head. And so there can be a lot of arguments. They can get accused of being a smart aleck a lot, for having a tone, for saying, things just kind of just blurt out of their mouth. A lot of times it's just the truth of the reality, and people don't want to hear the reality. So they can get kind of like a troublemaker reputation really quickly. But Mercury retrograde, it does enhance the intuition. Because this is introverting the energies of your thoughts. So people with Mercury retrograde oftentimes are very gifted with writing. They're gifted with poetry, and they can also be text message tough guys, meaning, and I don't mean that in a smart aleck way. I mean, they can express their thoughts and their ideas through a text message versus in an actual like argument. Like if someone with Mercury retrograde is having a disagreement with someone, a lot of times like they will have like this big explosion and they say way too much, or they just shut down and nothing comes out right, and they don't feel like that they get their point across, or they're not communicating right. So it is better for Mercury retrograde people a lot of times to communicate their thoughts and their feelings with their partners via text message. That way they can get from start to finish their real thoughts without being interrupted. Because if you interrupt someone with Mercury retrograde, they just shut down. They cannot think of what they were thinking about before. So at that point, a lot of stuttering, a lot of stammering, and nothing comes out right. So, but I do love Mercury retrograde in Aquarius because this is the sign of geniusness. That these people have brilliant ideas that are way in the future. They can come up with they have a revolutionary and very gifted ability of thinking outside the box. Not only that, but maybe thinking of boxes, like new boxes nobody's ever even thought of. And sometimes their genius lies in they see things, the simple a simple way to fix things or to enhance things or to make things run more efficiently that's just overlooked, and it's in that simplicity that their genius lies. Okay, so Sagittarius is rising in this chart with Neptune conjunct the ascendant. Now, what is your rising sign? So your rising sign, this is just as important as your sun and moon sign and Mercury, because it is your public face. It's your physical body. It is the way other people see you. It's your public persona. So it's like the vehicle that carries you throughout life. It houses all of your other energies. And so it's a very, very important sign. It's your public face. So Sagittarius rising, this is probably the ascendant that I see the least amount of time, one of the rarest ascendants to be born with. This is a fire sign ascendant, and this is having Sagittarius rising is one of the most mystical ascendants to have. So this is a person who, excuse me, my allergies. This is a person who is very in tune with the cosmic and the mystic realm, and there's always a special connection to source. Now, a lot of people with Sagittarius rising are seen as not very dependable, because what is Sagittarius? Sagittarius is this happy-go-lucky energy. It's very expansive in nature, and it kind of like it's the party sign. Sagittarius and Aquarius are the party sign. If you want to have a good time, get you a Sagittarius or an Aquarius ascendant, sun, or moon. But this is having this on the ascendant is, with this being a mutable, dual-bodied sign, is an energy that it can seem non-committal, especially the fact this person is an Aquarius sun, like not just not dependable. They get this reputation, but they're they're interested in all kinds of mystical and cosmic subjects. And having an Aquarius sun, this person could be very gifted with numerology, astrology, any of the new age subjects. There can be like some giftedness coming over from the past life, especially because there's a lot of Sagittarius in the 12th house. We have the 11th degree of Sagittarius rising. Now, Neptune is conjunct the ascendant exactly to the degree at 11 degrees. So what does this mean? This can create a very hot or cold type of personality, an extremist personality where things are black and white. Hot, they're either happy or they're sad, they're mad or they're glad. And so being content is not very comfortable with when you have your ascendant in a fire sign with Neptune exactly conjunct. And why is that? Neptune is a planet whose that's element is water. And so you have fire rising, and then you have this huge like water planet, this very introverted. Sagittarius is a very extroverted energy. Excuse me. And Neptune rules Pisces. So this is a very introverted energy. And so basically when you have this fire element and this water element, it's like the fire is boiling the water up and the water is putting the fire out. So it's hard to find the middle ground with this combination. But this is a very psychic placing. Excuse me. People with Neptune conjunct the ascendant and Sagittarius. Sagittarius rising is the sign of a prophet. They have a lot of premonitions, a precognitive like visions and dreams and thoughts and things like that. And having Neptune on the ascendant conjunct the ascendant, this is a person who, their senses, they were born probably with sensory integration disorder, meaning their senses are overstimulated. Sounds are more loud, lights are brighter, foods are tastier, smells are stronger. They probably smell their food before they eat. And so going in, being around like a lot of fluorescent lighting can completely drain this person's energy. Certain sounds are just complete agony. Touching like things like foam, styrofoam, the certain fabrics can be just they can not have a tolerance for that. It can just be like fingernails down a chalkboard. So very sensitive to the energies of their environment. They need a very calm environment, and they need to carry maybe carry a couple of crystals, work with crystal therapy, balancing their chakras, diving into guided meditations, and learning about binaural beats, because Aquarius is all about like energy and an advanced like new age healings, and so is Neptune on the ascendant. So there can be a lot of allergies even when you have Neptune on the ascendant, like to medications, and have, medications, what some, a certain drug or medication can affect, how it would affect one person just normally. Like someone with this combination is going to have heightened sensitivity to that, and really it can have a drastic effect on them. And it's not good for their health. So all natural, like naturopath, holistic remedies are going to work best for a combination like this. And, so this can set up such a sensitive physical makeup, because remember, this is the energy that you're the first thing that you connect with other people and with your environment you're going to see that through the ascendant. So when you have such a vulnerable ascendant, this can be so vulnerable that you just want to numb the overstimulation that's going on. Excuse me. So you really want to try to, like I said, check into binaural beats frequencies, like maybe on a 528 or a 432 hertz frequency. Make sure you take baths every night. Put some, bath salts with maybe ashwagandha. I think Dr. Teals makes an ashwagandha bath salt, and that's going to really cleanse and clear your energies. I would not go to bed if I was this person with Neptune on my ascendant without taking a bath every night and like cleansing the day away. Listening to music at night, sleep, music on a 528 or 432 hertz frequency, like a Reiki energy healing music, is going to be wonderful if you have Neptune on the ascendant. Okay, so the chart ruler, which is the planet that rules the sign that's ascending, is Jupiter, and it falls in the third house, which is intercepted. So, what is an interception? So, an intercepted chart, it's not as rare as what having a chart ruler intercepted and having your sun intercepted is, but I would say it occurs about 25% of the time. Now there are 12 houses, in our zodiac wheel, and those 12 houses are broken up into 12 different sectors of life, each house representing a different area of life. And so you have the natural ruler of the houses, which starts with Aries and it ends with Pisces. And then you have your ruler of that house, the zodiac sign that's ruling your house cusp. And that is derived by what zodiac sign the sun was shining through in the east on the eastern horizon when you took your first breath. And so it casts a chart that way. And that's how you get your zodiac wheel, which is your blueprint of who you are. And, the planets are basically God's organizational system or the universe's organizational system, however you believe. And so, where those planets fall in your houses, those highlight those specific areas of your life that are going to be more prevalent, more prominent in your life. So, that's why a birth time, having an accurate birth time, is very essential. You can know what planets the zodiac signs are in from your birth time, but knowing the houses without a birth time, with just a birthday, but knowing what the birth time is going to give you the houses, because the ascendant and the other houses are going to change like minute by minute. Now, so ideally you're going to have one of each of the 12 signs of the zodiac ruling each of the 12 house cusps. When an interception happens, there are two sets of duplicated signs ruling your house cusp, ruling the house cusp, and there are two signs entirely encapsulated inside the middle of a house, not ruling a house cusp. Okay, so the third house is intercepted in the ninth because the houses work in opposites. So the first six houses, you're going to have one sign, and then on the other six houses, it's going to be the opposite zodiac sign. So, like I said, that's not as unusual as having an intercepted sun. So when planets fall in this house, they act as if they are in the 12th house. So when it's like a fog around, or it's a blocked energy. Now, some astrologers say that having an intercepted chart, basically it causes your energies to be harder to access. In my personal research and experience, I have an intercepted sun in North Node, and a lot of other healers and mystics have this as well. I feel as though it is a blocked energy for a certain time period, and once basically like you're at a certain age, and only basically only the universe or God is going to know this. Once your wheels become at a certain point, because you have your natal chart, you have the transits, you have your progress chart, the solar return chart, the solar arc chart, you have the lunar return, you have a lot of charts. So all these charts are basically like a wheel in the middle of a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Now, at a certain point, this interception is going to unlock. And where that interception lies, there is a wellspring of a very deep like insight into that house and spiritual giftedness that is going to activate and call you to the spiritual path, so to speak. Now, until this happens, you can feel like the Forrest Gump feather floating at the beginning of that movie, where your life is, you're not really passionate about anything. You don't know where you're going in life. You have a loss of identity. There is a loss of self, a loss of ego. And so you have to be very careful having an intercepted sun, because like a moth to a flame, this sets up a target being a narcissist like perfect match, because your natural tendency when you have an intercepted sun is going to be, there's going to be an escapist tendency there. There's going to be a tendency to you see yourself through your partner, and it's going to make you happiest making your partner happy. And so you can attract a lot of toxic partners when you have this. Now, Jupiter, the chart ruler, is intercepted as well. So this creates even more of a loss of identity, and you can get railroaded by dominant and toxic partners that keep you at a low vibrational state, that keep you from fulfilling your destiny. Now, Venus is conjunct Jupiter in this chart, and it is conjunct in the third house. So there is a very deep need to be loved. This is a hopeless romantic partner, or hopeless romantic placing, because remember, Venus in a woman's chart is how she expresses her femininity, and in a man's chart it's his ideal woman, and Mars in a woman's chart is the energy of her ideal man, and in a man's chart it's the expression of his masculinity. So Jupiter expands everything. It exaggerates everything. So when Venus and Jupiter are conjunct, this is a heart of gold placing, but this is a placing that is very vulnerable to getting wounded early on and suffering, and the life not fulfilling the destiny point due to feeling like they're not loved, because the chart ruler is intercepted with Venus in this house. So this can create a feeling of worthlessness, and a deep need to be loved, and a feeling of failure and not good enough. And so I want to encourage this person to do some look up some videos on Louise Hay and listen to her life story and her affirmations. The only way to overcome this is going to be through positive affirmations and self-love, and reprogramming yourself from within, so that your vibration can raise and you can get to your destiny point. Now, a stellium happens when there are 3 or more planets in one house. This creates like a traffic jam in this house. And so all the transits hit this house at the same time. And if they're hitting one planet, they're hitting the entire, the other 2 planets in this house. So you can see a major destiny point in a chart with somebody who has 3 or more planets in the same house. This person does have 3 planets in the third house. Excuse me, my allergies, y'all, are just freaking driving me insane. But this person does have 3 or more planets in the third house. So this is a focal point, but it is intercepted. So the destiny point was delayed until after basically the Uranus return. There's going to be some life-changing events, some realizations and awakenings, so to speak, to their own power. And it could be through this reading even. And you start taking some of these steps. You start learning about your awesomeness and realize that you have a predestined destiny, a major one, as a mystic, as a healer, someone to communicate. Basically, what this sets up, you have this intercepted chart with this intercepted sun. You have the North Node in the 12th house. The North Node is your soul purpose. It's what you came here to do. But what is the 12th house? The 12th house is the house of your past life. It is the house that is connected to the universal mind, to the universal consciousness. It's the house of self-undoing. It's the house of the sinner or the saint, so to speak, the mystic or the madman. And it's very extremist in nature of one or the other. So when you have the North Node in this house, you cannot, people, when you have the North Node in the 12th house, I want y'all to hear me very strong about this. You cannot avoid developing your mystical gifts. That's what you were born to do, was to And it could, everybody has different gifts. Mysticism is not just about, an astrology or numerology. Mystical gifts can be, or gifts of enlightenment can be, manifestation, things of the higher mind, yoga, Pilates, like martial arts, Tai Chi, inspiring other people, using your story and your hardships and things that you've had to overcome, and using your voice to help shine a light for those who are struggling and suffering in that same darkness that you've overcame yourself. So North Node in the 12th house puts you in darkness, makes you self-destruct, makes you, turn to escapist type things. But that's not supposed to be how it all ends for you. It's not supposed to be your life path. It's supposed to be you for a short period of time. And then you are supposed to climb out of that hell and then use your voice and inspire other people. So the third house is all about communication. It is an education house. It's short distance travel. It rules siblings. More importantly, this is the house of the messenger. So having this emphasis on this house is a very strong, gives you a lot of power, that people will gravitate towards in a message of healing and hope and inspiration, inspiring other people. So I do want to encourage you to look up Kelly Howe's. There's a guided meditation that's free on YouTube. It's by Kelly Howe, and it's her Destiny Meditation. And you're just going to use that with earbuds, put it on, turn your notifications off, and just use your imagination. Just follow the prompts of the guided meditation. I think it's about 45 minutes long. And I want to encourage you to start to check out everything on Kelly Howe's channel. You can go into, Michael Seeley has one called Finding My Life's Purpose. But you're not going to be able to, you have to heal your self-love deficit that you have. You have to start programming yourself with positive affirmations, because every powerful healer, every powerful mystic has a hell that they climbed out of. And you have to be your own healer, essentially. And I know that was true for myself. Had I not have consciously and consistently worked on my self-esteem, worked on this self-love deficit that I had and still struggle with today, I wouldn't be sitting here, talking on this video. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. And this is the easiest and the fastest way to get to your destiny point, because just because you realize your destiny point doesn't mean you have the strength or the internal programming to even get there. Because I know for myself, I was trying to get my life to work out the way that I wanted it to. I didn't know that I had a special calling. I mean, after I lost my family, by the time I was 25 years old, excuse me, I was pretty angry at God. And I found myself in the dark night of the soul, and I was a hopeless romantic, always, just wanted to be the perfect, Southern wife. I love cooking, and that made me really happy, waiting on a man, the typical, Southern belle type thing. But nothing would work out for me, and I was attracting very toxic partners. And everything fell apart in my life. After my family died, I had a breakdown, and that's when I found when I woke up from that, I knew astrology. So I had no idea I was going to be an astrologer someday. I just felt compelled to learn astrology, and I started working with people in my community probably about 5 or 6 years into my deep studies. And everything fell apart in my life when I failed to answer this call that I was supposed to put myself out there. And as an extreme introvert, I didn't know how to do it, and it was the last thing I wanted to do. And so once everything fell apart a few years ago, I was asking God, I was like, why won't anything work out for me? And he told me, he said, because you won't fulfill your destiny, and nothing will ever work out until you do. And it didn't matter how nice I was. It didn't matter how good of a cook I was. It didn't matter how much I loved putting people before myself and doing sweet things for people. When I say nothing would work out, I mean nothing would work out, no matter how hard I tried. So when he told me, when I'm asking, why won't anything work out? And he said, nothing, because you won't fulfill your destiny, and nothing ever will work out until you do. The most profound thing that ever happened in my life happened because I said, well, what is my destiny? And, I never thought about that. I never asked that question because, see, what had happened was I was busy trying to get my life to work out the way I wanted it to. And some people, and I see this over and over again, people with intercepted charts, intercepted suns, they're going down this path where society says this is what a successful life is. And so you're trying and you're failing. And so every year that you try harder and you fail even more, it is accumulating and just wreaking havoc on your self-esteem. So fast forward 18 or 19 years to my self-esteem, and now I realize I have a special destiny. Over the years of failing at everything I tried to do, I don't have the self-esteem to even go after it, even though now I know I have this. So that's, what I did was I threw all of my goals out the window. And I told God, I said, okay, I throw everything out the window, and I'm going to trust that the right information comes along my path that I need. And until then, I'm just going to sit there and continue my studies. And so that's the same week that guided meditations came into my YouTube feed. And it was through that, because if something comes through my YouTube feed, that I haven't searched, I always feel like that it's a special divine, intervention, placing that in my YouTube feed. So it was releasing subconscious blockages, and the secret, releasing subconscious blockages by Michael Howe, finding my life's purpose by Michael Seeley, and also it was the secret to the universal mind. So I started doing that every night, in a rotation of those three. And within 2 months, I started the Cosmic Owl. And I did not know what I was going to do with it. It started out, I was going to make funny memes, or I was going to share funny memes, which led to creating them, which led to, me writing, to doing consult, to, my moon series went viral, and I still continue to do this to this day. And I also added some guided meditations about targeting, my self-esteem, my, like, garden of positive affirmations and healing my inner child. So I would have never been able to start the Cosmic Owl. I had a terrible fear of rejection. I did not think people would want to hear from me because I do consider myself a Christian mystic and a very spiritual astrologer. And most people, astrology is like linked in that category, that you can't be a person of faith and be an astrologer. And so I definitely thought I would be rejected. And now, I have 25,000 followers to Facebook, and around 100,000 a month on Pinterest views, to up to 300,000 or 400,000 some months. So it's never too late for your destiny. I know I got long-winded on that story, but I just want anybody watching this that's been led to this video, if you feel, led, like you're supposed to be in front of the camera, if you feel like you have this, these gifts, you feel led to sharing, but you think that it's too late, that you're too old, it's not too late, and you're perfectly on time. You see, this energy is blocked in your chart when you have an intercepted chart, because you have to have the life experiences to grow into the knowledge that you're going to be, that's going to open for you, that you learned in your past life. So sometimes it's a whole, 20 years, like for me, of just like failing and not getting on the right path, because I had to have those experiences. I had to have those, that kind of rejection and all the hardships that I went through with losing my family and all the struggles that I went through from childhood and being suffering from severe childhood abuse. I had to have all those so I could get to my destiny point around 40 of being able to help all y'all that come to me that are that are struggling with the same thing, to help y'all out of that darkness. So I do want to encourage you, Megan, that it's not too late, and these guided meditations can really fast track you and help you get to and understand what you're supposed to do with your life. Okay, and let's see. So let's look at a couple more things in the chart. So the moon is in the 5th house. People with the moon in the 5th house, they usually have a natural way with kids. Kids really like moon in the 5th house people. A lot of people with the moon in the 5th house, they go into teaching, they become teachers, but the 5th house is all about self-expression and creativity. You can also see like makeup, hairstylist have a prominent moon in this house. But there's a very giftedness with writing, with self-expression. A lot of times poetry. You see a lot of poets with the moon in the 5th house as well. Now, Uranus is in opposition. It's in the 11th house. There can be power struggles within your own children when you have this, or there could be separations from your kids, and then like life experiences happen and you come together again. But it can be painful when you're dealing with this, because moon in the 5th house typically want to be around their children all the time and delight in children. So if their children reject them, they can really take this personal, and it can be a deep wounding, because the moon in the sign that, or the house that the moon goes into, is a place where you feel emotionally fulfilled. You seek emotional fulfillment. So it's going to be through your own children that you feel is like your pride and your emotional fulfillment. But you have to trust the universe during these times of separation, and you have to not let it affect your self-esteem as much, because you may have these separations from your kids because the universe is needing you to develop something in yourself, and write and do some inner work and growth. And what a great inspiration for your kids when they see you grow and you live up to your destiny point. No matter how late it got started, no matter how old you are, you still have the ability to change, change how everything ends for the better. You're not too late for anything. Pluto is in the 10th house, and when it is in the 10th house, it shows tearing your life down at a certain point and becoming like the phoenix, the mythological phoenix, where you completely burn yourself up. You completely tear your old life down, burn who you used to be up, and you rebirth yourself in your own ashes. And you're like the phoenix. You're like a guide, a healer. I have chills right now. For other people. This is a power placing. You can't avoid this major transformation in your life, this destiny point that is calling. Uranus in the 11th house is a very genius placing. This is the home of Uranus. So binaural beat frequencies, anything you ever want to overcome in your life, you can overcome with binaural beats frequencies. If you want to quit smoking, and through guided meditation, if you want to quit smoking, if you have anxiety, if you want to find your destiny point, guided meditations and binaural beats, which is one sound frequency going in one ear and one sound frequency going in the other ear, and it just tweaks your brain waves and it makes you receptive to the reprogramming. You have a chart that is most susceptible, that you're going to reap the most benefits from using binaural beat frequencies. Mars and Mercury, they are in the 2nd house. So once you get on your destiny point, this is a person who can make a lot of money through communication, through sharing your ideas, through writing, through getting published and things like that. This is a powerhouse placing for that. And but the destiny point for that, because you do have Capricorn ruling your 2nd house cusp, doesn't come until after your midlife crisis point, your Uranus half return around 41, 42 years old. Okay, and I hope you enjoyed your reading. Lots of love and light to everyone out there. And with that, I will see you later. Bye.